For most of my life, I was a people pleaser. I would just say yes to whatever my family or friends wanted to do and go along with other people's plans. Rarely did I speak my opinion or my mind on what I wanted to do and have the group go along with that. I didn't really know what I wanted in situations, and to be honest, I craved approval and validation from those who I looked up to. Boundaries were non-existent, and I was very out of touch with my emotions. Look, my name is Andre, and after years of trying to find not just my way in life, but my confidence and my resilience among a lot of other things, I now teach others how to work through all of the stuff faster than they think is possible. So let's get on with the video, and just remember to drop comments with what resonates to you as you watch. So I want to talk about the book, The Way of Men. This was a crucial book in me breaking out of the nice guy pattern, and it really helped me shift the paradigm of how I thought about masculinity. The author, Jack Donovan, actually reads the audiobook himself. So I highly recommend getting the audiobook version so you can hear it straight from his voice. It really is a great experience listening to him read the book himself. So what I really like about The Way of Men and the way that Jack Donovan approaches the whole idea of what masculinity is that he talks about what masculinity is in regards to what men need from other men. He doesn't talk about what women need from men. And this is an important shift because a lot of other masculinity content out there talks about, this is what femininity is and this is what masculinity is. And although I think a lot of men who have grown up as nice guys do have feminine traits, it helps to have a North Star of what we should be aiming for. And that is what Jack Donovan talks about in the book, The Way of Men. So it really is a huge paradigm shift where you hear what men need from men, because that is what masculinity has been for centuries. Many men these days, or I should say many boys these days, were actually raised by women. And what I mean by that is maybe your dad was not around. Maybe your dad was working more and your mom kind of raised you. Maybe you grew up in a more feminine household if you had older sisters. That was my case. Maybe your dad was more of a feminine man also and more of a nice guy, because guess what? Our parents' generation were also raised more by women. And so this has gone on as a generational thing. And over the years, not only are men's testosterone levels decreasing, but our masculinity in general is also decreasing. Just to give you an example, in my own life, my mom taught me how to shave. Think about that for a second. Like, my dad was around, don't get me wrong, but if my mom taught me how to shave, my dad wasn't the one showing me the manly things and the masculine things to do. He didn't take that responsibility on himself, right? I was raised with two older sisters, one with special needs, and my mom, who was very driven, very opinionated, would speak her mind a lot and kind of run the house in some ways. So it's easy to not know the situation you're in until you start realizing you want to change something, and you start to realize and you put the pieces together and you take the blinders off. So if you are a nice guy and you're trying to break out of that and improve and just increase your overall masculinity, you might want to look at the role that your dad played. And was your dad also a nice guy? What was his masculinity like? He could have been one of these men also raised by women. So keep that in mind. Now, as far as what the book talks about, there are 4 key aspects that Jack Donovan talks about what makes up masculinity. And I think these are really important. I'm going to go through all 4 because these aren't things that you really hear about when, again, you're listening to the conventional wisdom about masculinity and what that is like relative to being less of a feminine man, right? And on the other side of femininity. So when you have these 4 traits as your North Star, and I love the last one, to be honest, when you have these 4 traits as your North Star, it starts to make other things a lot clearer. The first trait that Jack Donovan talks about is strength. Men have to be strong. This is why men go to the gym. This is why men try to look strong physically. We go to the gym to, have bigger muscles, and obviously women like that, right? But we have to be physically strong in today's world. But another piece which isn't talked about as much is mental strength also. Yes, going to the gym and getting strong is important. And there's a lot of subcultures within that, right? You can go bodybuilding, or you can do something like calisthenics, which is what I do. You can go into more like the yoga and like a flexibility kind of strength. There's a lot of different ways you can approach the physical strength side. When it comes to mental strength, I think this is where most men have some of the most opportunity for growth. There are a lot of weak men out there today. And I'm telling you right now, I was one of them, believe me, right? The gym is important, as we talked about, but your confidence, your self-esteem, your self-image, all of that is so important also. And so I lump that in under the strength side of things. The second aspect that he talks about, the second key trait for masculinity, is courage. Do you have the courage to be out on the front line, to lead your fellow brothers, or to lead your family, or to lead your business or your spouse, in your relationship, or whatever it is that you do? Or do you cower and shy away from challenge? If you think about, and Jack Donovan uses this example in the book, if you're holding a perimeter, you need the strength to be able to fight, right, and hold your own in battle. You have to be able to carry your own weight. And that's the strength piece. And do you have the courage to go out to battle, to go out and be on the front lines? We're providing, a lot of men, we provide for our families, and we need the courage to go out and do that, and the ability to do it also. Or do you hold back and let someone else take the lead? And you can look up the statistic. I'm not saying you have to fit into one role or the other, but in marriages where the woman earns more money than the man, it is more likely to end in divorce than if the man is the provider and the main breadwinner for the household. And the man needs the courage and the strength to be able to take on that lead role just in a relationship context, for example. You need the courage to take risks, right? When was the last time you took a risk, whether big or small, at work, in your business, in a relationship, taking a risk to say your opinion, to stand your ground, right? How often do you risk something happening, some consequence that you're not sure what the outcome might be, so that you can actually do something that's more aligned with who you are and maybe a step closer in the direction of masculinity? Another aspect, and a little story for my experience as a nice guy, I would often try to connect with men and have a constant ongoing kind of relationship and conversation. And I realized a lot of times they didn't make time for me the way that I wanted to make time for them. What clicked for me is that they were out leading their own life, doing the courageous thing, building their business, leading their family. And that was their focus. Socializing with me was a much lower priority. So if you're out there doing things that other men that are more, let's say, masculine, that you look up to, are of a lower priority, then that is something you can look at to see if you want to start changing things in your life so that you can live more in this masculine way of being. But hey, let's be honest. Leading is a lonely path a lot of the time. So do you have the courage to lead yourself and lead others, even if it doesn't give you the warm and fuzzies that you might secretly have been hoping for? The third key trait that Jack Donovan talks about in The Way of Men is mastery. What can you dominate? What can you get so good at that they can't ignore you? What skill can you bring to your business or your work or your relationship or your family that's going to take it to the next level? And do you have the courage to even master something? A lot of guys are sitting on the couch playing video games. Playing video games is not a skill that has any practical context in everyday life except hanging out with the boys. But it's not something that adds to your masculinity as a man. In fact, a lot of women complain that their boys at home or their men at home are just sitting around playing video games. So is there something outside in the real world that you can master? And do you have the courage to do that? And are you willing to do what it takes to put in the time and learn a meaningful skill? Obviously, AI is starting to change the game in the professional world. But as innovations enter the space, no matter what you do, some of you might need to retool. And that is something that has been the case for centuries. That's not new. AI is new, but needing to retool when innovations happen, that's not new. So what are you doing? What skills are you learning? What are you becoming a master of so that you can pour into the bucket of your masculinity? And think about, again, the example of going out to fight and holding a perimeter. You have to be a master fighter. You have to be a master at defending your brothers around you and defending yourself. What are you mastering today that adds to your masculinity and that you can provide as a service for others potentially? Another way to look at mastery is two things. External mastery, which is mastering skills externally. That could be your trade, it could be your profession, it could be your vocation, it could be fighting, it could be some skill like that. There's also, again, the internal mastery, right? The internal versus the external. It's so important, guys, to master yourself internally. And for so long, I didn't master myself. I was not a master of myself. My thoughts were ruling my life. I couldn't control my mind. I had very, very low internal mastery. And in today's world, this is a key difference between a lot of nice guys and a lot of the more masculine men out there, because the nice guys, we might be high achievers, right? We don't need to be physically defending things. We're not fighting for survival anymore in society today, but we still cower and we still are weak on the inside because of some of the things I mentioned earlier. Having that internal mastery, that mastery of self, is so key so that you can have the strength to take the courage to go out and do what you need to do as a man in society today. And this brings us to trait number 4 that Jack Donovan talks about, which is honor. And let's look at it this way. We all want to win, but not everyone gets to win, and not everyone gets a trophy. I don't know about you, but I was raised in the era where everyone gets a trophy. In sports I played as a kid, everyone got like a cheap plastic trophy. And this isn't how the world works, guys. It's terrible preparation for manhood. Not everyone gets honor. This is a concept that he talks about in the book, and I think it's so important. If you do better at strength, courage, and mastery, you are going to do something that the other men around you are not going to do. And those men are going to honor you for it. That is what honor is. It's not something that everybody gets. It's when you receive something that the other men around you didn't do. And think about this. A compliment is kind of like micro honor. Let's say someone says, "Hey, I like your shirt," or "Hey, nice haircut today." A lot of nice guys can't accept those. They can't handle it. But it's like a micro honor. It's like, hey, some girl told you, or some lady, or a friend of yours, could be a guy, said that you have a nice shirt. He didn't tell the guy next to you, he told you. It's like a micro honor. A lot of guys can't take a nice compliment. It might make you uncomfortable. And so how does it feel to realize that you're experiencing a masculine experience, receiving a little piece of honor, right? A compliment. And that makes you uncomfortable. If receiving a compliment, receiving a little slice of honor makes you uncomfortable, what does that tell you about yourself as a man? If you told any high achieving man, any very masculine man, and you gave him a compliment, what would he do? He would love it. He would take it in stride, or he would say even more confidently, like, "Yeah, I know because I worked on that," or like, "I did that thing," right? So many guys, we take a compliment and we're like, "Oh, it's nothing," or we brush it off because we can't accept that. So there's a deeper layer of, this goes back to the strength piece, the inner strength, the inner mastery, that we need to start shifting things so that we don't feel uncomfortable when we are experiencing a masculine trait or a masculine experience. And let's be honest, guys, some of us, maybe we had like we were raised by women, and that's what made us the nice guy, or that's why we're not in our masculine as much as we would like to be. But also, maybe some of us felt threatened by masculinity when we were younger. Maybe it was too aggressive, and that's how we experienced masculinity. And maybe at some point, and this is in my case as well, you made a decision to be unlike your father. And when you're choosing to be unlike your father, you're taking a step away from being more masculine. So again, there's a lot of inner strength and inner mastery that needs to happen so that we can build that relationship again with masculinity and start to embrace it rather than push it away and feel uncomfortable by it. So I really love all of these traits that Jack Donovan talks about in The Way of Men. As I read it, it really shifted things because I realized what it really takes to be a man, and what it takes to be a man as defined by men, not defined by women. A lot of men have feminine traits like I do. For example, being a bad ender, bad at ending things or feeling attached to a situation or relationship or a thing that you can't let it go. You can't just say goodbye. You can't walk away from it. That is more of a feminine trait. When you are anxiously wanting attachment and wanting that connection with people, yes, we are humans. We are social creatures. We all need love and we all need attachment to something. But when that hinders your masculinity, then that's something that's going to get in the way. We also become mentally weak. We're not leading ourselves. We're not leading our family. Maybe you're a follower, or maybe you're just doing nothing. You got to build up the courage to be able to lead yourself and decide that this is the life you're going to live. Another trait a lot of men have when they're not in their masculine is that they might actually be kind of underlyingly manipulative, trying to get things out of other people. This is something that Dr. Robert Glover talks about in the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. He calls it a covered contract. It's not obvious. It's covered because it's beneath the surface. We're secretly trying to get things out of other people, and maybe we're not even aware of it ourselves. And I think the fix for this one is to embrace mastery and learn how to get what you want in life instead, overtly, straight up, being direct about it, and going for things that way as opposed to having this covered contract way of living your life. Another trait that gets in the way of masculinity, which might be a little hard for some of us to hear, but was a big one for me, was believing that we are all equal in society. Now, I don't mean that we're not all equal as humans. Of course, we're all human and we all deserve a certain level of life experience being a human on this planet. But that's different than what I'm talking about societally, right? You don't have to be friends with everyone. A lot of guys try to be friends with everyone. You don't need a lot of friends. You need a few close friends. A lot of the most successful people, they keep a small circle, not a large circle of people, right? You only let a few people into your house, only a few people into your friend group. You don't just want everyone in there because everyone's different. You've heard the saying that you are the average of the 5 guys you spend the most time with. So if you're spending time with everybody, you're going to be the average of everybody. And in that case, you're going to be less of a masculine man, and you're going to be low on that honor totem pole. But if you have 5 friends who are all high achievers and you're all pushing for excellence, you want to keep that circle small. Because if someone comes in who doesn't fit the bill, they could kind of mess up the vibe you have going on, and it's going to throw off the group. So instead of trying to be friends with everyone, choose honor instead and work for that for yourself. So wrapping up this video, guys, real quick, being a nice guy tends to mean that you're living with more feminine traits, to be honest. You've reduced yourself down to the lowest common denominator of what people like in somebody. And so you're not really somebody that others are going to love, or as the book says, someone that other people are going to honor. And this is something that I lived as for a long time. I tried to be friends with everyone. My mom would even compliment me when I was younger, saying, Andre, you get along with everyone, right? And making that a good thing. What I learned in The Way of Men, again, guys, I highly recommend you get the book, is that being a masculine man requires a very specific set of traits, living your life a very specific way. And for years, probably decades, I was not living that way. And I was confused why I wasn't getting what I wanted in life, why I was getting different results that I was expecting, why I was not having the things that guy over there was having. And a lot of it is because of what's in this book. This paradigm shift of strength, courage, mastery, and honor being the North Star that we as men live for and dictates how we live our life, having that as the base, that is going to change things. It's going to change the way you think. It's going to change the decisions you make. At least it did for me. So if you've read it, go ahead and drop a comment below, or let me know if you're going to pick it up and are curious about it, or if you just have questions, drop them in the comment section, and I'm happy to chat with you guys. I will see you in the next video.